To see that world in that looking glass. Alas, you see the grain of sand for the heavens, the wildflower holding that infinity, the palm in your hand like an eternity of an hour. You can offer something of an age of the independence, and this is the heavens, the wildflower of eternity. Heaven in the rage, you can find that star for the basket, addicting ruin. Stay for this, the up on the road for the calling for the heavens, upon the wheel of blood, and the hunter for the air for the brain to stare. Winter with the wing for the you can see to sing the glisten clip for the fight to this the rising sun. Fright, lions howl, raise for the human soul. Wild deer wandering here and there to keep the human soul from care for the lamb misused the breeds of public strife, and yet forgive the butcher's knife for the path that fits the close to the E for the left for the brain that won't believe the owl that called upon the knife, the speaker for the unbeliever fright. She'll hurt for the little for the wretched. You can find a beloved man for that. You can have that was moved to this and be by the woman loved by the gills to fly, the distant spiders and dormant sprite for this about for the endless, the knife for the caterpillar for the leaf for the repeating of the mother's grief for the kill not that mouth of butterfly for the judgment. Here for the shell train that horse to the poor. Past that polar bear for the beggars of a dog. What else of a captain the rural fat for this to sing the summer song for the poison again for this lattice storm for the poison. Sweat, envy's foot, poison of honeybee. This is the toll for the bad intent for the beats. All you lies you can invent for the right for this should be. So you can have the made for the joy for the woe. This will be rightly what we know for the broke. We safely go for the joy for the moving for the fine. And I can find the clothing for the soul for the divine. For the other get free for the pine for the shorts with this silken twine. And I could be the spine they bind throughout the even massive people tools for made for born for hands and honor. You can have the undervetted for the cultivation with the understanding they tear for the eye. Becomes a babe in eternity for the call for the feet, those bright for the returning of his own delight. I behind that world, I have ways that I mean upon the heaven shore. With the devil's the weeping of the robbing, deep in the red man, to your realms of death. Fluttering in the air, pulse of strike. Poor man, father, for the war forward to the gold African shore for the working for the labor for the you can find the misuser for the protector of on high. This is nation selling a buy, mocking for the infants of faith. Mock for the age of death. You should teach a child to doubt that the grades you shall never get out of. Respect that infant. For the two seasons of question, the sitting so sliding out for the sitting you'll know how to reply. For the replies, the word to die with the lighter for the knowledge out for the strongest that poison ever be known for the game for the crown for this the armor for the iron braids. Peaceful, arch, envy. We bow at the end, so doubtful fit to reply. Philosophy to the smile. Yours doubts for that disease, for the believers for what you please, for the sun and moon should doubt you to immediately go out for the passion of what you good may do, for the good of a passion to send you for the to be the only find the light. A shot for the loose curse dance before that hearse. This is every night for the every morning. Misery the born, mourn for every night. Some are born for the sweet life for the endless. Believing that life for which is born into the night that perish, and you find the beam of light for the bold, those poor souls that dwell up in the night for the human form display. For this the realms of the day for what you can get the age of innocence, and it's only left for clarity for the divine yellow tiring tenderness, and this is the paradox. Principle proposed that work for the doors of the perception to cling to your life for the eyes of everything for this to be the infinite, and everything establishes that value for the time. Prisons are built with the stones of law. The bricks of religion for the radical, enough for to be Satan. You could paradise lost, attack that for the convention of religious for the view for the sight. Savage for the algorithm for the your realms of the images, and you can find that for the wife who've remarked. And that for the company. Paradise, contemporary, harmless and a lunatic. Lunatic enough for this to find the work of the prophetic book for the good express that lifelong concern for the struggle for the soul to be free. Energy for the reason that you find that for the approach you wrote for the right to this to be the establishment for the pleasant for this to be the only production of the Jerusalem for the engraving for the people by my burden go. Ever to the desire for the love for the soul. The spirit for the clouds and the unfold for the your chariots of fire, but this will be left for the taking up and too much working for the justification of what you find ways of good man to God to man to this is finished out for the engraving of the what you find a successful exhibition. Pride is not depressed for this to continue for the produce and your soul, for the algorithm, for the rap, for the you wiser than known, for the instructions, for you have that love, the depth and doubt, and distance, adversary, for the verdict, for disability, no doubt, for the poor, for the man that was made mad is a this a man, for the interest, for the sanity, for the you have that all, for the on to rediscover, especially only for the play, for that you can have the concentration, for the framework, for the mythology, for your theology, your philosophy, for the psychology, for only classes to get your critical thinking. I guess I can find a piece of play done that. Writing, comprehension, intelligence, for this is to define the audience, and no description for the be the suited for the this to be the vividly intelligent, enough for the this to be the hyper, understand. I can be the brown every in instance. Permission to represent with the one for the one for the this to be the motor. I can find it. You and I illuminated for the rest to define the patience to the modern for the motive. You can connection that for that you can find it for that what you can recently find. That intriguing what you have illustrated for your thoughts. And this is more valuable than what you have indeed. The E for the D for the D for the M, but don't let the title scare you off. I reviewed that place. You are the doors of your openings forbidden to encounter what has that sound of vibration and a quote reprinted for what you wrote. He was quite wonderful enough for the project to be a sketch of the thought of a memory, paintings engraved, brief apology. No meaning to misbehave while night food flow for the information that was on the repository for this included the patience I left with you for this sidewalk, for your window, for the look over the mirrors and popular enough that I could see for the clarity, enough of the sky allows me to see everything for the validation for you and I can be the same thing for the good and gone, for the die, for the death, for the deprive yourself of the arrival for rivals or lovers, and over that lovers and blanket with blank stares and air that regions of kingdoms to come. Before the forefathers know what they forgot, forget it not, the knowing rather. Remember the ringers and the fingers and the pointing at you for the pointing to depending on the points and interest in that for the cross of the top of cathedrals and path of your adder roll for the ladder for the night. The shepherd, the sheep of the herd for the empty present, falling angels and lost. Angels less the coming for the first second, the coming of the ages and agitated for this to legitimate mates and this reason for the relativity for the relationship with the water so you'll dehydrate or die for the colors that black. White with the borders to the reach and attack. Rub to your side to meet with the gates of the reap with your sheep with the laughter, the sloth with the houses, the spouses, the spouter, the beef with the pleasure you fed up with the castle, you live for the wings, fly for the back to the wind for the sword, for the beneath to the feet for the ground with you up to the ship with the ship is with the UPS and the payments are meant to be said. Word for the word for the truth, for the deepest enough for the down, for the sad, for the waiting, for the youth to discover, for the this and be the discovering, ring over the deserving, wife for the life, for the sleep, for the half to all, for the might, light for the philosopher, for the be true. I had hope with the side of you. Teach me with your code and teach me the way for the show me the who you are, for the babe, for the sound, for the existence, and I make me verb. Glory for the Holy Spirit, for the teach me to learn, the Lord to feed me your word. Pour into your cup and fill me with your love and mercy. Speak to me for the familiar way. For I could be the shepherd always and not the sheep who lead me before you. Did we have to weep and so much you by Lord for this I might call your Almighty for the contraction of your words and guide me to your rock of salvation to give me your strength for the reaching your destination, destiny, investment for the prophecy, sight, faith, no this way. To your returning to where I was and where you are to be my acronym by synonym for the sin, the righteousness for the nets of the wings, the sore heights of the healing for the feeling, for the being touched and felt with the falling and the rise of the death. Everlasting for the beginning, for the endless and your always and forever, for the omnipresence and omnificent. Of course, it's just so many times that you can find that God be the glory for the end, and no matter what happens, you're gonna have the time to give up with the really doing surrendering. Not for the healing, for the you don't need to drown somebody for the just allow you to know the resistance. And confused with the giving of the love and the force of the love and one this is abuse. Yeah, everything cipher between bodies, emotions, and abuse. This is mutually inclusive, and you can have that order to not hurt. Rather be broken and pathful work you worried about reciprocation, worried about that hurt time you love for the unacceptable for the reflection for the people that you have in life is find it what you kind of find the baggage and get the love and the eternal good. Your love is invited for the experience and your inside of you. life for that. You beyond belief. Somebody can be lost if there's no truth. This is the life for you, the life for the one life for the you, with the conscious pervaded the entire universe. A typical woman for the experience of the stone, the grass, that person with the star for the galaxy. Listen to deep within you. You already know that. You already have to know have the tendency to be cool, for the kindness and tolerance, compassion, independence, flower for the bees, and there is no flowers, and there is no bees, and there are no bees, and there is no flowers. And we're really gonna have an organism for the same, even daily action for the search for truth. Life for the consciousness and act for that, for duty, flaws in the crack box. You'll crack that, flaws of that, live together for the very interesting enough for the rewarding. Out of your mind for this individuation of the rest for the comeback for the push aside and have to learn to rest and lie down for the only position the rest of the silence and never ending of speech. I guess it's a language for me. Thanks, pain, pleasures, a river of life flows. It's only when the mind refuses to flow with life. This is get stuck at the river makes it become a big problem for this is the impediment for the scene and deepest in nature for the rising to any thought to discover that you with the ocean with eternal peace inside you for the difficulty to suffer from. Seek peace, grace, elsewhere, experience that peace, self-essential transformation.
Slow burning, all consuming, ever present movement. Choose not to see the labels.
Time for the youth, thinking that action, listening to the condition of the kindness and belief in no God, or what you choose for whatsoever belief in the condition, you have that. Not enough of the mindful breathing and nothing else. I'll slay any demon that demonstrated for what you find before me at any word with the front of an S and swore with the light bled before the hearted with the rivers to the down the falling for the waters rapid repeating acts of seeing them seen for the significantly for the singular lay upon upholding the double the tip is the taunts and dropping your habits and business be having without the holding possession to ceasing your easing to reaching to exchange your perplexities and I perform refine the models and modify for the fleeting act. Fed up like that for the mind, for the coal, power for the updated, for the energy source of force to depleted, for the deployment, when intentions to detention, your rise for the campsite, for the scene, for the scenery, senses, more die, for the debt, for the deprivation, for the provide, really prior yourself out of whether you can find it here to save, to find the sound, they said, the food for the appetizer, food for thought, for this to be the more or less of the death, for the deputy, for the health, for the crouton, for the salad, for the ballot, for the bell, for the advertising, your adversity, for the small towns and clowns and city council, for the countries, and derived for the rivalry, for the variables. Able to reinstate your reign of dispower for saying yourself for the lower standards that sit upon the subject of the objectivity for the inject for the opinions imposed for other words you can live the voice of like really attractions, codes, data, attractors, bonds, bear themselves. Exclusive, lucid dreams, divine, lucid, place, reality for the perception. This is no example. For example, the amplified infidelity for the value for the deity, the gravity, consciousness in your value for the don't validate. It's the part dark place that fear if they can't read the signs and tickets for the clock that has the patience only the pattern the path pay you the back for the beer the word for the bib for the dib for the liver for the neck for the over the half of the heart for elements the edge of the toilet waves I can take a breath away to spell for numbers. It was better for the death for the eyes, the better for the minds and mints and this and amendments and the adamant for the dormant for the apple tree for the verboten button auction for actions and curse the price to pay back to the ancestral celestial stardom. How far can we confident this time in life, the heavy hours to make up the ugly face of the beverage cake for the cabbage, the miscarrying over the cross to nail the near decided for the citation for the scene for the budge and judge this in court to the house of spouse. Just for members without the member the rage and users for the ties that became under the lack. Books and alimony for the currency for the money for the image, the harmony for the leading, the Armageddon for you can get by for the good and wrong, for the down for the death, for the city ride for the rivals, for the rivals of lovers, for the love of the legs, for the air, for the magic, for the company, for the forefathers, whether for the remember the rings to the finger for the point of that pointing for the billy for the points of the inches for the cross dance to the top of the actual final brother for the
It started as a lesson of the sheep of dreams.
For the black for the border for what you have that for the side of the beat for the gate for the reap for the sheep on the side of that the high. I'll set the sky to bang the fat for the light for the harder to see but you aid for the base value for the be considered for the word and for the supply some resources you can guys out. Okay.
We're still talking about slavery.
The point of period for the lesson for the contributor, the points of interest of
These are my
the
proof
resurrection.
to show you that slavery up. God got a 7 seated man still waiting on that consensus.
Ceremony, your matrimony, your currency, really grand for the accurately rated highness. Stars to be for the surface of the horizon, for this horizontal for the people of the balance of scales, the sail, the seas, just a scam, trying to find a skeptical for the scheming environment, that's a human. Not the skill of the house of the God. This is the body for the dream. I have the live with the love for the staff of my heart. This is the safety you can stand for the still, for the down, for the reflection, for the light of the cast, the shadow out upon the clear, absorbed by energy. Imitate the shine, and this is only 2 feet for the net, for the grinding, for the wings, and spread the solitude, for the hero, hello, for the halo, for the hell, hollow, for the edge, for the finite. Fighting for the bigender, for the base, for the message, for the people, they'll stand for the heart to be the destination, to return to the center, for the river, for the heart, for the balance, much of the mistake. In vain to the light, the rivers that didn't reach to the destination, lives the plans to find, of heart to heart, to transplant for another plant, for the breath to breathe, that this came for the me that after forefathers have spoke and spake. And not for the to me, for the ear to be present, for the ears to be worth of the valuable, for the words to breach your breath, to break your way, I slide it for the ground to circulate, for the I could be the circuit, for the time, for the wash your ways goodbye, for this it was a different for the bad, but the by speaking, rather that for the mean to say, rather for the bent, for the thing, meaning to be testimony, for the being the money, be chested to faith and focus and sight, for the God has been given rights and property to spoken for the thought. Spell yours to the word for the truth and matter, for the provide your proverbs and action, for this to be proposing your purpose, and this to deceive the lies, not grace and disputed, for the disgust of the curse word, for the curse for the written out and right. Without the rights or wrongs, ringing out the call, the through the tile, for this to dry desert, for the thoughts of the word, for the edge and knowing and the knowledge to the courage, and you can find out for the standing good ways and storing the pain for the injuries. Ignorance, rancing, racing through the laps like strips, the dancer strips, and fine as stripes, and stares as tears, and over the eye sockets of sock, the defeated ambitions and ambiguity. Big guilt, distant little lies, height for tolerance with the oxymoronic short Negroes with the high heightened sense. Cheap to spend time with anyways you were in to find a question or the sentence to hook at the end of a hang. Trees of hangman letters and Willie Lynch, the stenches of hate. Inches to make a break, the leaves to find a rake to fall upon the season without the taste of summer for the year that summoned your courtship and explore to implore your fate. The borders indicate a reason to protect you from all of the bullying and the rhythm mirrors and break a room for the one to come out of the comfort for the oppressed to answer for the pressing your questions and patterns and check the ass and to find the who to see to be the hated for the self and remind you of your projection.